Citizen Talks is a podcast series featuring discussions with humanitarians, activists, artists, and changemakers, exploring the global humanitarian issues that shape our society, the world at large. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Citizen Talks. I'm your host Minkailu, and today we are very lucky to be joined by Plestia Alaqad. She is an award-winning journalist and author. Plestia, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me as well.
So we always like to begin by opening this up with some information for our audience who may not be familiar with you. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, so I feel my story is always incomplete without telling my grandparents' story, so I'll start from there.
Start at the beginning.
My grandmother, Fatma, got displaced from Jaffa when she was only 2 years old in 1948, and she got displaced again from Gaza Strip when she was 77 years old. My grandfather, Hilmi, got displaced from Ramla when he was 7 years old only in 1948. I got displaced from Gaza Strip when I was 21 years old. So I'm a Palestinian person. I come from a family of exile and displacement. For university, I studied in new media and journalism. And why I'm connecting both points together? Because I feel like the reason I studied journalism is because of my nationality. I felt it's more of a mission than a profession. Like I have a mission to raise awareness about what's happening, to tell the story of my parents, to tell the story of my people in general. So that's basically who I am. I recently wrote a book. It's called The Eyes of Gaza. It's available almost everywhere. There's international shipping. It talks about my experience in Gaza. It comes in the format of diary entries. I used to write about every day, what I report, what I see, and everything that happened during the genocide for 45 days, October, November 2023.
So the genocide in Palestine has been going on for some years now. Can you tell us what is the situation right now? Can you describe it for us?
The situation is beyond terrible and devastating, to be honest. I feel like there isn't enough strong vocabularies to describe what's happening. And the thing is, day by day, or even hour by hour, the situation is getting worse in Gaza. So now I might give an answer once the interview is out in 2 days. It might be irrelevant because the situation might get even more worse. For now, as we're speaking, there isn't any humanitarian aid that is entering Gaza. So people in Gaza are literally dying out of hunger. People in Gaza are wondering what will kill them today. Is it the bullets? Is it them getting targeted? Airstrikes, bombs, or out of hunger. So the situation, I feel like there isn't any words to describe it really. And just remember, whenever you watch the TV and you feel like you can't take it anymore, you can't watch what's happening, just remember that what's happening in reality, in real life in Gaza, is even like 10 times worse than what we see on TV.
In terms of infrastructure on the Gaza Strip, what even remains at this point? It seems there's been a pretty calculated strategic bombing campaign trying to level everything to the ground. Could you say really there's not even anything left?
The thing is, I lived in Gaza my whole life, and right now when I look at pictures, I can no longer recognize the streets. Gaza is getting unrecognizable.
So this has been, I think, the most watched, live streamed, viewed genocide in human history. And regardless of that fact, the international community has done next to nothing. What more can be done to change the conversation globally about Palestine to actually make something happen? I mean, what's left to be said? What's left to be done? What do you think could change the nature of this conversation?
I feel like I'm not the one to answer this question. People expect us Palestinians from Gaza to have the most creative ways on how to help, but actually for the past year I've met a lot of people that aren't even Palestinian who live abroad, and they come up with creative ways to help that even I didn't know that, oh, this is possible. The other day I met a girl in Switzerland. She told me she watched the news. She noticed there isn't any media coverage in Swiss media about what's happening in Gaza. She started calling a newspaper, media channel to tell them, interview this journalist, do this story, do this, do that. And this is one person, she did that. Imagine if every person came up with a creative idea to help, to raise awareness about what's happening, then a lot of help can happen. The student encampments that started in the US, It was a brilliant idea. Students came up with it, the protest. A lot of people are trying to help each with their own way. So I can't just tell people boycotting, raising awareness, or donating. I'm sure they can come up with more specific, creative ways that are actually more effective, because everyone knows the environment around him or her. So if you feel like in the environment around you there isn't much awareness, then you raise awareness. Like, you can decide what's missing in the environment around you, and you can contribute and help in your own way.
How have your own views about the world, more broadly speaking, changed since the genocide began? Did you have, like, were you more idealistic when you were younger? Did you have faith in humanity and lost some of that? What's kind of shifted for you over time?
So, because of the genocide, I realized how ugly the world is. Because what's happening is it's not about us Palestinians. It's about living in a world where a genocide is allowed, even if this genocide was elsewhere. So I never thought that evil is possible, or that much evil even existed in our world.
So, what do you think is important for people to know about the way that Western media has been covering this entire campaign against the Palestinian people?
It's important to know that there are people behind the headlines. So when you read, for example, 185K Palestinians, according to Lancet study, got killed. Remember that behind each number, there's a person, there's a life, there's dreams. When you see people, when you see a certain person and how they look injured and displaced, that's not how they usually look like. They had a whole life before October 2023, and they were like a totally different person, a totally different version of them. Maybe they were like a doctor, an engineer, a journalist, a teacher, or even a stay-at-home mom, an artist. Like, we had professions, we had houses. We aren't just like displaced, hungry, injured people. So there is more to the person. Don't judge Palestinians to what you're seeing after October 2023, and remember that they had a whole different life before that.
Right. So, as a journalist, do you feel that the mainstream corporate media even has any value to us as people anymore? Like, in your mind, what does the future of journalism even look like? Because the bias, the sort of propaganda has been very, very obvious across the entire scope of this genocide. So, I mean, what do you think needs to happen, or what should the media look like moving forward from here? Because people can't trust mainstream media anymore. What would you say would be the best way forward as a journalist?
I know you're asking me this question as a journalist, but honestly, the problem that we have isn't with journalism or the media specifically. It's more of human rights problem. It's more of realizing that in some countries, animals have more rights than you as a Palestinian, as a human in your own country. So we have a lot of problems, and media is one of them. But maybe let's focus more on having human rights, you know?
Yeah. So let's assume, for example, that this entire thing ends at some point, and the Palestinian people are able to rebuild. Having come this far, what does peace in Gaza even look like in the future, should it happen?
If you asked me this question prior to October 2023, maybe I would have had an answer or a vision. But right now, all I can focus on is I want the killing of my people to stop. I want the humanitarian aid to enter Gaza. When people in Gaza are getting slaughtered, when babies are getting killed, when people are starving, it's hard to think of anything else but how to stop that.
And for you personally, like, how do you, over the course of this, dealing with all these things, seeing all these terrible tragedies happening, traumas, how do you even maintain your own mental, emotional well-being?
It's hard to maintain it because physically I'm out of Gaza and I'm privileged that I'm safe, I have access to food, to clean water, but mentally I'm constantly thinking of the people there and thinking how unfair the world is.
So you have seen, we've all seen horrific things, and these are the main stories that we're getting, for the most part, out of Gaza. Can you tell us something hopeful, something about your people that still gives you joy?
So I want to be realistic more than I want to be hopeful right now. And I feel like the important thing to focus on is the news, what's happening on the ground, more than focusing on hopeful stuff. Because I'm a hopeful person in general. I don't like to be pessimistic, but right now all I can be is a realistic person and to think of actions that need to happen to at least stop the hunger that is happening in Gaza. So I can't sit here and talk about our culture, talk about our people, their resilience, how hopeful, how educated they are when they're getting killed and getting starved.
Yeah. I have seen, now you're out in the world, and I'm curious about sort of what the nature of the response you've seen from the Palestinian diaspora. Because obviously they're not there. It's kind of difficult, but I think resistance is a language that's very deep in the Palestinian people, wherever they are. So what's kind of the actions, the activities that you're finding amongst Palestinian diaspora people in response to the genocide?
Just because you're Palestinian who's outside of Palestine, that doesn't make you any less Palestinian. That's an important point that I try to always stress on and pass this message through. And there's a lot of support abroad, either from Palestinian diaspora or even people from nationalities I've never heard of before.
Okay. So before we wrap this up, do you have any final words that you would like to give to our audience members, something you would like to leave them with that you think they should remember from this conversation?
I want the world to see us as humans. I don't want to live in a world where I constantly have to humanize us and to prove to the world that we're humans, we're just like anyone else, because that itself is dehumanization and an act of violence. You living every day proving you're a human, I'm like you, I like this, I like that, just to show them that you're humans. So I just hope the world will see us like humans, not superheroes, and not deserving of anything that's happening in Gaza right now.
So for anyone who might want to follow along with you, what you're doing, keep track of your career and progress, work, where can they connect with you?
I'm active on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok to a certain point. So yeah, I'm on social media. I have different platforms.
Okay. Plestia, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here today. We really appreciate you. And for all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And we will see you next time on another episode of Citizen Talks.